Daddy, are we gonna have dinner tonight? The question came from the back seat, small, hopeful, and edged in worry. Marcus Hale tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his knuckles whitening. He glanced in the rearview mirror at his 6-year-old son, Devin, who clutched his battered Spider-Man lunchbox like it held the secrets of the universe. Of course we are, buddy, Marcus said, forcing a smile. I've got another ride coming up, okay? Devin nodded, but his eyes stayed on the buildings passing by outside, some broken down like their life, others towering and untouched, like worlds they didn't belong in. Marcus pulled his beat-up car into a Whole Foods parking lot and checked the ride app again. One last passenger before he had to pick Devin's backpack up from the repair shop. It had ripped again, and Marcus had stitched it with fishing line the night before. He tapped the screen to accept the next ride. Passenger, Gabriella Lorne. Pickup, Upper East Side. Drop off, Mount Sinai Hospital. Notes: I may need help walking. He glanced back at Devin. All right, kiddo. One more ride, then food. Pinky promise. Devin held up his pinky with solemn ceremony, and Marcus looped his around it.
Solid, the boy said.
When Marcus pulled up in front of the luxury brownstone, he immediately fell out of place. The front steps were polished, the windows clean enough to reflect the city skyline. Then the door opened, and out stepped a woman who looked like she belonged on the cover of a fashion magazine, but not the flashy kind. The elegant, quiet kind. She wore a navy trench coat and oversized sunglasses, and as she moved, he noticed she was limping slightly. You must be Marcus, she said, her voice low, calm, but edged with something that didn't match the glamour. Discomfort? Pain?
Yeah.
Need help getting in? No, she said, but then paused. Actually, yes. He got out and gently took her elbow. Her touch was warm, delicate. She didn't look at him at first, only focused on her steps as she slid into the passenger seat. Once settled, she pulled off her sunglasses, revealing striking blue eyes that caught his gaze longer than he meant to let them. I'm Gabriella, she said. Marcus. And that's my son, Devin, he said, motioning to the back seat. Devin gave a small wave.
Eat.
Gabriella turned to him, surprised.
Eating.
Her smile softened then, like it broke through something. You helping your dad today? I always help, Devin said proudly. We're gonna have dinner after this. Marcus shot him a warning look in the mirror. Gabriella didn't miss it. The ride was quiet for a while, filled with soft jazz from the radio. Halfway there, she spoke again. Do you always drive with your son? Only when I can't find a sitter, Marcus said. He's quiet. Doesn't cause trouble. Are you a single dad? He nodded.
Yeah.
Since Devin was 2, his mom wasn't ready for the whole parent thing. Gabriella looked out the window, her posture stiffening. I'm sorry. Marcus shrugged. It's life. You just gotta figure it out.
They pulled in front of Mount Sinai.
He parked and got out quickly to help her again, noticing the way she winced when stepping down. You sure you don't need a wheelchair?
No.
I need to walk.
Doctor's orders, she said, then paused.
Would you mind waiting for me? I might need a ride back. And I don't want to deal with another driver. He hesitated. I can wait, but only if you're okay with Devin staying in the car. I'd like that, she said, surprisingly fast. I'll be quick. Gabriella disappeared through the sliding doors, and Marcus settled into the front seat beside Devin, who was now playing with a small action figure. Is she okay? Devin asked. I think so. She looks like a princess. Marcus chuckled. Yeah, she kinda does. An hour later, Gabriella returned, visibly more tired. He got out again, helped her inside, and noticed her hands trembling slightly. You all right? I will be, she said, pulling the seatbelt across her lap. Thank you for waiting. No problem. They drove in silence again, until she suddenly asked, what did Devin mean about dinner? Marcus sighed. He's just hungry. I'll figure something out. She studied him for a second, then quietly reached into her purse. Please don't take this the wrong way, she said, handing him a white envelope. This isn't pity. You did me a favor today. Let me return it. He opened it slightly and immediately closed it again when he saw the cash. I can't, you can. And I insist. He looked at her, really looked at her. There was no arrogance in her tone.
No judgment.
I'll use it for him, Marcus said. That's why I gave it. He dropped her off and watched as she climbed the steps slowly. Just before she reached the door, she turned and waved. Devin waved back harder than necessary, grinning. That night, Marcus bought Devin a hot meal with real chicken and vegetables. They sat in the car and ate it together in the parking lot of their apartment building. Devin sang between bites, and Marcus smiled for the first time in days. 2 days later, the app pinged again. Passenger, Gabriella Lorne. Pickup, Upper East Side. No way, Marcus muttered. He accepted. This time, when Gabriella climbed into the car, she smiled first. I was hoping it would be you. Marcus blinked. You requested me? I did. Devin leaned forward. Are we getting food again? Gabriella laughed. We can, if it's okay with your dad. Marcus looked at her, her smile, her eyes that didn't look at him like he was less. And something moved in his chest that hadn't moved in years. Yeah, he said. I think I'd like that. The third time Gabriella requested Marcus as her driver, it was raining hard enough to blur the skyline into watercolors. The kind of storm that made most people stay indoors. But not her. He pulled up to the curb outside the same pristine brownstone. This time, Devin wasn't with him. A neighbor had offered to let him hang out for the afternoon, in exchange for Marcus fixing her leaky faucet. It wasn't ideal, but it gave Marcus a rare few hours to work uninterrupted. When Gabriella stepped out, her coat was different, longer, darker, and cinched at the waist with a gold buckle. Her hair was pulled back, exposing the delicate line of her jaw. She moved more steadily than before, but still with caution. You always pick the worst weather to go out in, Marcus said as she got in. I guess I like dramatic entrances, she replied, then glanced at the empty back seat. No Devin today? He shook his head. Neighbors watching him for a bit. She settled into the seat, rain tapping softly on the roof above them. Good. I was hoping we could talk without little ears. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That sounds ominous. I just want to ask you something, she said as they merged onto the avenue. What did you do before this? He kept his eyes on the road, unsure how much to give. Construction. Mostly high-end residential builds. Got laid off when the company downsized. After that, it was odd jobs. Then driving. She nodded slowly. So you're handy. If it involves tools, I can usually figure it out. Would you ever consider working privately? She asked, her tone casual but laced with intent. For who? For me. He glanced at her. Doing what? A little bit of everything. I have a property outside the city that needs attention. The staff handles most of it, but I prefer someone trustworthy overseeing things. Someone who isn't trying to impress me. Marcus let out a breath. You're serious? I wouldn't offer if I wasn't. He took a turn, letting the wipers swish once before replying. I appreciate it, but I can't just leave the city. Devin's school, our place. I'm not asking you to move. I'm asking if, when you have time, you'd be willing to help. Come out for weekends, maybe. Bring Devin. There's space. He might like it. She didn't push further, just let the sentence hang in the air like a thread waiting to be pulled. What kind of place is it? He asked finally. Stone farmhouse. Built in the late 1800s. Needs love. And someone who doesn't cut corners. He glanced at her again, her profile calm against the window, the rain streaking behind her like falling stars. You always hire your drivers for renovation work? No, she said, smiling faintly. Just this one. They reached the hospital, and she touched his arm before exiting. Think about it. If you say no, that's fine. But don't say no because you think you're not allowed to say yes. That night, Marcus stood in his kitchen, a cracked tile beneath his heel and a flickering ceiling light above him. Devin sat at the table with a workbook, tongue poking out as he traced letters. "Dad," he said suddenly, "do rich people eat spaghetti?" Marcus laughed. "I think they eat whatever they want. Even cereal for dinner? Especially that." Devin grinned and went back to his worksheet. Marcus leaned against the counter, her offer echoing in his head. Not the job, not really. The way she looked at him. Like she already saw him in that house. Like she wasn't trying to fix him, just inviting him to be more than what the city had left behind. The next time she called for a ride, it was a Wednesday morning. He just dropped Devin at school and barely started the engine when her name popped up again. She was waiting outside a cafe this time, not the brownstone. A paper bag dangled from her fingertips, and she held 2 coffees in a cardboard tray. "I didn't know what you liked," she said, handing him one as she slid in, "so I got black."
No sugar.
He raised the cup in thanks. "How do you know I'd take the request?"
I didn't, she said.
"But I hoped." He sipped the coffee, strong and bitter. "You always this persistent?" "Only when I want something." "And what is it you want?" She looked at him then, and something in her gaze rooted him in place. "Someone I can trust." He didn't have an answer for that. Not right away. They drove without destination for a while, city blocks passing in a blur of red lights and pedestrians with umbrellas. Eventually, she said, "Turn left up here. I want to show you something." They pulled onto a quiet street lined with brownstones. She motioned toward one near the corner. That one. The building was elegant, understated, the kind of place that didn't scream money, but whispered it confidently. "I own it," she said. "Used to live there before I moved temporarily. Haven't decided what to do with it yet." "You show all your drivers your old homes?" "Only the ones who might help restore it." He parked, engine idling. "You ever think about how strange this is?" Her lips curved. "All the time." Before she stepped out, she leaned slightly toward him. "Say yes, Marcus. Just once." He looked at her, saw the challenge in her eyes, the invitation underneath. He didn't know what world she came from, the kind that had paper bags from cafes and buildings she used to live in, but he knew this. She wasn't offering charity. She was offering something else.
A door.
A chance. "All right," he said. "I'll take a look this weekend." Her fingers brushed his when she handed him the bag of pastries she'd brought as a thank you. "Good. I'll send the address." As she walked away, heels clicking on wet pavement, Marcus sat still for a long moment. The rain had stopped, but something else had started. Marcus had never seen a house like it up close. Not on a screen, not in a glossy magazine, but right there in front of him, towering with quiet confidence beneath a sky that threatened rain again. It was nestled on a stretch of land that felt like it had been carved out of the world and kept untouched. Trees bowed slightly in the breeze, and the gravel drive crunched beneath his boots as he stepped out of the car. Devin ran ahead, arms stretched wide, chasing the wind like it was something he could catch. Gabriella stood on the porch, her coat open, hair loose, watching the boy with something unreadable in her eyes. "I should have warned you," Marcus said as he walked up beside her. "He doesn't stop moving once he's had orange juice." "I like it," she said, not looking at him. "This place has been too still for too long." The front door opened with a soft creak. Inside, the house was colder than expected. Not drafty, but waiting. Like it hadn't been lived in for a while, but still remembered how. Gabriella led him through the rooms one by one, pointing out water damage near a window, where paint peeled in strips like old wallpaper, and where a chandelier had dropped 3 crystals and never been fixed. "I bought it 8 years ago," she said, pausing in a hallway lined with faded portraits. "I thought I'd fill it with noise."
People. Life.
But it stayed empty. Why? Marcus asked, running his fingers along a cracked molding. She hesitated. Because the idea of home felt like something I hadn't earned yet. He turned to her, but she was already walking again. They reached the back of the house, where tall glass doors opened onto a garden swallowed by weeds. A stone path led nowhere now, overtaken by ivy. But there was a bench, wrought iron and moss-covered, standing like it had been waiting for someone to remember it. "I can fix this," Marcus said quietly. "All of it. I know." They spent the afternoon in the house. Devin discovered a hidden staircase and declared it his secret mission base. Gabriella showed Marcus the attic, where dust floated like snow in the shafts of light. She didn't touch much, only observed. He noticed how her eyes lingered on the smallest things: a cracked tile, a faded curtain, a forgotten photograph tucked behind a shelf. By late afternoon, Gabriella had disappeared into a phone call near the front of the house, and Marcus sat on the back steps with Devin, watching the sky shift from gray to amber. "Can we live here?" Devin asked suddenly. Marcus smiled. "It's not ours. But it feels like it could be." Before Marcus could answer, Gabriella returned. She wasn't wearing her coat anymore, and he noticed the faint bruising along her collarbone faded, but there. "You all right?" he asked, standing. She followed his gaze and nodded. "Just old injuries. Nothing serious." "You don't talk about it much." "No one ever asks." He didn't press, but something in his chest tightened. That evening, they all sat at the long kitchen table, plates of food between them. Gabriella had insisted on cooking. Nothing extravagant, just roasted vegetables and pasta with lemon, but Marcus couldn't remember the last time someone made him a meal without expecting anything in return. Devin fell asleep halfway through a story about a haunted treehouse he'd invented, his head against Marcus's arm. Gabriella gently lifted him, carried him to the guest room she'd prepared, and returned moments later, wiping her hands on a linen cloth. "He's a beautiful boy," she said. "Yeah," Marcus replied. "He saved me more than I saved him." Gabriella leaned against the counter, her expression softer than he'd ever seen it. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone who wanted something from me." Marcus stood. "And you think I don't?" "I think you're the first person I've met in years who doesn't look at me like a door." He crossed the room, slowly. "What do you mean?" "Like I'm the way through to something else: money, influence, status. You look at me like I'm just a person." "You are." Her breath caught just slightly. "I'm not used to being seen like that." He reached up, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, without thinking. "You should be." The air between them shifted. She didn't move away. But then a phone rang sharp, insistent. She pulled it from her pocket, glanced at the screen, and her entire body changed. Tense. Guarded. "I need to take this," she said, stepping outside. Marcus watched her go, heart thudding harder than it should. He waited 10 minutes. Then 20. The sun had dipped below the trees, and the house was cast in gold and deepening shadow. He found her on the porch, phone dangling at her side, face unreadable again. "Everything okay?" he asked. She nodded too quickly.
"Fine."
"Work."
But he saw through it now.
"You don't have to lie."
She turned to him.
"Some truths come with too many consequences, even when you want to share them." He didn't push, just stood beside her as the leaves rustled above. "I should take Devin home," he said after a while. She nodded but didn't move. As he turned, she stopped him with a touch to his wrist. "You'll come back?" He looked down at her hand, then up at her eyes.
"Yeah."
"I will." He didn't say what they both felt but hadn't named yet. That something had started here. Not just work. Not just friendship. Something that could rewrite the silence in both their lives. As he drove away, Gabriella stood at the edge of the porch, arms folded against the cold, watching until the car disappeared down the winding road. Marcus stood in the center of the unfinished sunroom, sawdust clinging to his forearms, the scent of cedar thick in the late afternoon air. The windows were finally installed, the panes catching the golden light in a way that made the room feel like it had been waiting for warmth. He stepped back, checked the alignment one last time, and ran a hand through his hair. "You're early," Gabriella said from behind him. He turned to find her standing in the doorway, a denim shirt tied at the waist, sleeves rolled up. She was barefoot, her hair damp, like she'd just washed off the day. "I wanted to finish the trim while Devon's at school," he said. That corner by the fireplace was starting to warp. She stepped into the room, eyes scanning the work. "It looks beautiful." "You haven't seen it at sunset yet," he said. "Give it another hour. You'll forget this place ever felt empty." Gabriella didn't reply right away. Instead, she walked to the window, resting her fingers on the frame. "I signed the paperwork this morning," she said quietly. He waited. "I've been negotiating the sale of my company for almost a year. They finalized the acquisition today." Marcus crossed his arms. "So you're out, just like that?" "I didn't want to run it anymore. I didn't want to keep pretending I belonged in those rooms. You built it."
"I did," she said.
"But I built it when I was trying to prove to myself that I could survive. Now I want to live." He leaned against the workbench, watching her carefully. "So, what happens next?" "I'm walking away, with more than I'll ever need. I gave half to a trust this morning. The rest I'm still figuring out." Marcus let that settle between them, the weight of her words stretching wider than the room they stood in. "I didn't tell you for the sake of it," she said, turning toward him. "I told you because I don't want to hide any part of myself from you anymore."
He didn't speak.
Not yet. He just watched her, the way the light hit her jaw, the way her fingers stayed curled against the windowsill like she was bracing for something. "I think I was falling for you the first time you spoke to Devon," she said. "You didn't even flinch when he asked about dinner. You just showed up. Again and again. And no one's ever shown up for me like that." Marcus set down the level he'd been holding and moved toward her. "You know I don't have a damn thing to offer you, right? No connections. No legacy. Just a 6-year-old who thinks cereal is a food group and a car that makes a new noise every week." "I'm not asking for anything," she said. "I just want to be with someone who sees me. And I want Devon to know what it feels like to be safe." He rested a hand lightly against her waist. "You're sure?" "I've never been sure of anything." He pulled her closer, gently, their foreheads meeting. "You terrify me," he said. "I know," she whispered. "You terrify me too." Later that evening, Gabriella led Marcus and Devon down the back garden path, the one he'd cleared weeks before. Halfway through, a small table waited beneath the wide-armed oak, set for 3, candles flickering in glass jars. Devon gasped. "Is this for us?" Gabriella nodded. "Figured it was time we had dinner together. Not in a car." They ate as the sky shifted from rose to violet, the trees murmuring around them. Marcus couldn't remember the last time he'd seen his son so still, so content. It wasn't the food, it was the feeling of being wanted, of belonging. After dessert, Gabriella stood and offered Marcus her hand. "Come with me." He followed her toward the front porch, where a narrow box rested on the steps. Inside was a set of keys. "I want you to have this," she said. "The house. The land. Everything." He stared at her. "Gabriella, it's not a gift. It's a partnership. I want to build it with you. Not just the walls. Us." His throat tightened. "If I say yes, I'm not going anywhere. I'm counting on that." He took the keys. Then yes. 3 weeks later, Gabriella stood in the corner of the sunroom, dressed in cream, her hand in Marcus's. Beside them, Devon held a bouquet of wildflowers he'd picked himself, grinning like the world had turned just for him. "No guests. No photographers. Just them." The justice of the piece finished the vows, And when Marcus kissed her, everything else fell away: the noise, the past, the ache of years spent surviving. They didn't need a mansion. They had a home. They didn't need a crowd. They had each other. And for the first time in both their lives, they weren't just standing still. They were finally moving forward, together. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the renovated sunroom, stretching golden stripes across the polished floors. Gabriella stood barefoot by the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching the trees sway in the breeze. The once-forgotten house had come alive in the months since they'd rebuilt it together, but today it felt different. Today, it felt complete. Behind her, Marcus stepped in quietly, holding a cup of coffee. "You always stand like that when you're thinking too much," he said softly. She turned, accepting the cup with a quiet smile. "I was remembering the first time I walked through this room. It felt cold, empty, like it didn't know what it was waiting for." "And now?" he asked, stepping in closer. "Now it feels like it never belonged to anyone else." He brushed his thumb along her cheek. "You're not still second-guessing this, are you?" "No," she said firmly. "I'm just learning how to live without waiting for something to go wrong." Marcus nodded. "Takes getting used to." They drank their coffee in silence, the kind that came only from deep comfort. In the distance, Devon's laughter floated in through the open windows. He was outside with the two goats Gabriella had surprised him with last week, a chaotic dream come true for a boy who once thought dinner from a vending machine was magical. Gabriella set her cup down. "I have something to show you." Marcus followed her to the study, where a stack of sketches lay spread across the large oak desk. The top page showed a floor plan. He frowned. "What's this?" "A community center," she said. "I've been working on the concept for weeks. A place for single parents to get help, real help. Childcare, job training, mental health support, everything I wish I'd had when I was alone." His brows lifted. "You're building this?" "With your help," she said, glancing at him. "I can fund it, but I want you to oversee the design and construction. You know what people actually need, not some polished brochure version." He reached for the drawings, flipping through them slowly. "You're serious?" "I've never been more." He looked at her then, his voice quieter. "You're not just changing a house. You're changing lives." She met his gaze. "You changed mine first." Later that afternoon, Marcus picked Devon up from his weekend music class in town. On the drive back, the boy kicked his legs excitedly. "Guess what, Dad? I played the piano with both hands today. Ms. Carla said I'm getting better." Marcus grinned. "I'm proud of you, bud." Devon leaned forward. "Can we invite Ms. Gabriella to my next class? She's never got to hear me play." "We'll ask her. I think she'd love that." As they pulled into the driveway, Devon squinted through the windshield. "Why are there balloons on the porch?" Marcus frowned. "Good question." They stepped out to find the porch adorned with strings of pale blue and cream balloons, and a large envelope taped to the door. Marcus opened it slowly, reading the card inside. It was Gabriella's handwriting. "Follow the trail." Devon squealed and took off, following the small white envelopes tucked under rocks, clipped to tree branches, and pinned to fence posts. Each envelope held a message. "You gave us a home. You gave us hope. You gave us love." The final envelope was tied to the oak tree in the backyard. Inside was a simple note. "Will you let me give you forever?" Gabriella stepped out from behind the tree, holding a small box in her hands. Marcus stared, stunned. She opened it to reveal a ring, masculine, simple, silver with a brushed finish. He blinked. "You're proposing to me?" "I am," she said, voice steady. "Because I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you. Not because I need saving. Not because I'm broken. But because I'm whole when I'm with you. And I think we deserve forever." Devon looked up at his dad. "You have to say yes, right?" Marcus laughed, tears cool against his cheeks. "Yeah, I really do." He reached for Gabriella's face, kissed her deeply, and whispered, "Yes, to everything." Their wedding was held in the garden behind the house, surrounded by the friends they'd made together, neighbors, workers who'd helped rebuild, parents from Devon's school, volunteers from the early planning meetings for the community center. Gabriella wore a dress of soft ivory, the hem brushing the grass. Marcus wore a navy vest and no tie, just the way she liked him. Devon stood between them, a ring-bearer and best man in one, his joy so contagious it made the guests laugh through tears. They exchanged vows under the oak tree, the breeze gentle, the air warm with late spring. At the reception, Gabriella danced barefoot, her head on Marcus's shoulder as the sun dipped low. He held her close, whispering things no one else would hear. Promises, gratitude, love that didn't need to be loud to be real. Later, they sat on the porch steps, watching Devon teach one of the goats how to sit. Marcus leaned in. "You know you've made this place impossible to leave." Gabriella smiled. "Good thing I never planned to." As the stars settled above them, the house glowed from within. It held laughter now, music, a piano that echoed through the halls on Saturday mornings. A family that had grown not through blood, but through choice. And outside, wrapped in each other's arms, Marcus and Gabriella watched their forever quietly begin. In the months that followed, the community center opened its doors. Gabriella named it the Haven. Marcus designed every inch. Devon cut the ribbon with a grin so wide it made the front page of the local paper. They stayed busy, but never distant. They worked long days, but always came back to each other. The house they rebuilt became a place others visited often, always leaving with full hearts and plates of food Gabriella had somehow made time to cook. On Sunday mornings, they slow danced in the kitchen, barefoot, coffee forgotten on the counter. On weekday nights, they tucked Devon in and read stories out loud, taking turns, laughing when one of them made silly voices. Because some lives aren't built in a rush. Some are built slowly, with patience, with second chances, with love that waits for no one, but welcomes everyone. And theirs was the kind of love that didn't just rewrite the story. It became the story.